Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Parker Emerald, and this is The Conversation Station. Today we are joined by an incredible guest. We are joined by the one and only Jordan Rodgers. Jordan is a former brand marketing director at Nike who has a passion for helping college athletes build their personal brands and use their platforms for good. He is the founder of Perseus Creative, a company that empowers college athletes to leverage their NIL rights and opportunities in a way that aligns with their goals and values. Rodgers has a remarkable life story of overcoming drug addiction and rising from the working floor of a Nike outlet to leading marketing campaigns for Nike basketball and Nike women's. He has worked with some of the biggest names in sports culture, including the likes of Odell Beckham Jr. and Serena Williams. He is also an advocate for criminal justice reform and mental health awareness. Rodgers is an example of someone who has used his story, skills, and values to create a meaningful impact in the world. Welcome on, Jordan.
Thanks so much for having me, Parker. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you on. So why don't you just start and give the audience a bit of a rundown, who is Jordan Rodgers and how has he become who he is today?
Well, I feel like you just kind of summed it up. Yeah, man, I grew up here in Dallas, Texas, was obsessed with sports, was a jack of all trades, master of none. In Dallas, Texas, if you want to continue to play sports throughout junior high and high school, you need to be a master of at least one. And the skills that I had were not, they didn't really translate to the field as much. I was good at ping pong. I was good at golf. And golf and ping pong weren't really that exciting, to anyone. I don't think there's varsity ping pong as far as I know. I don't know. You're younger than me. Is there? Yeah, dang. I know.
I have no idea. I'm homeschooled, so.
That's right. Okay. Well, you can play right there at your own school then. Yeah, so yeah, man, just kind of lost my way. I actually feel like later in life I've realized I had a lot of creative skills, and it just wasn't quite as valued back then. I think it was like you were a great athlete or you were nothing, in terms of popularity and what I valued, I think, or what I was sort of told to value. So the challenge for me then became, how do you navigate adolescence and disappointment and all that with a gap in my life now that I wasn't playing sports anymore. Because I basically tried out I went all in on basketball and tried out and didn't make it. I had given up soccer and club soccer and baseball and kind of tried to go all in on basketball and it didn't work out. And so then I was stuck, kind of holding the bag, what was going on. And in a really challenging time in adolescence, my grandfather had passed away during that time, had some, disappointments with, newfound relationships with girls and all that in junior high. And so I think it was just this confluence. And then, of course, the beginning of the opiate epidemic, which we're now in the middle of, it was kind of the start of that. And so a lot of events conspired to kind of lead me to seeking drugs and alcohol to helped me deal with the challenges of adolescence back then. And that kind of led to some really destructive and challenging habits, where I eventually ended up incarcerated at 21 and spent over a year incarcerated. But that was kind of the beginning of me turning my life around. And so I got involved with working out and health and wellness, which was kind of me, I feel like, reconnecting with my mind, body, and spirit and sports. And then, started putting one foot in front of the other, went to community college and then got to go to a university at SMU, and then started chasing this dream job at Nike. I spent 4 years chasing a dream job at Nike, doing a lot of other different things, personal training, and, just trying to build some skills to make me valuable in the marketplace. And then got in at Nike finally, and then worked my way up through the brand marketing and got to do several of the very cool things you mentioned in my intro.
Yeah, I mean, it is a crazy story to go from where you were being incarcerated to, working with Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, me as a big football fan, I love basketball, but you can guarantee I'm tuning into that Niners game every single Sunday. But Odell Beckham Jr. has always been one of my favorite players because he might be the most fun football player, most fun receiver to watch of like the last, probably since like Randy Moss, where he just goes up and makes these incredible catches that no one would expect. And so it's crazy when I got to talk to you on the Apogee call, when that's how I met Jordan, and just when you're talking about these stories and getting to these high places from this low spot, what was there a mindset shift that happened that really was able to spark that spiral of events that got you out of where you were?
Yeah, I mean, there was, I would say, it wasn't, I don't know. I had faced a lot of challenging consequences to that point. I'd been in different rehabs. I'd had a lot of challenging consequences in my life to that point. So Dr. Gabor Mate writes and speaks about addiction, and he says, if consequences would help, heal addiction, we would be the most addiction-free nation in the world, because we criminalize it and we penalize people from a very young age. And so it doesn't, and often kind of makes it worse. So I say that to say, I don't know that anything did like the spectacular thing, but I just kind of had this like come to Jesus moment in this jail cell and was like, man, I deserve to be here for the actions that I've done. I've certainly broken the law, like I've gotten in trouble, but I don't feel like I belong here, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life here. And I was facing a long time in prison at that point. And so, yeah, I think this mindset shift was, God, whatever you want to do with me here, fine. I'm willing to do the boring thing. I'm willing to just like live a dull life, like whatever you want me to do here. If it means that I don't have to be incarcerated for the rest of my life or for the next 10 years, 20 years, then I'm willing to do it. And I think perhaps before that, I had wanted it my way. I wanted it like exciting, or I wanted it cool, or I wanted it to be something that wasn't very realistic. And so maybe that was the mindset shift that was like, okay, I'm willing to submit to something bigger than me. And so I think it was a combination of humility. And then I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Parker, how old are you?
I'm 16.
16. This is amazing. The reason I said yes to this podcast is because I'm super stoked that a young man like yourself is putting together something like this. And I'm proud of you. I think it's awesome that you do something like this. So my hat is off to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. I've done a few other podcasts. I don't know what else people can learn here, but I care deeply about young men, which is why I also, when Matt asked me to join the Apogee thing, I was stoked to do it. I lost my way at 14. And I do think that had podcasting, had video editing, had like these things been available to me at the time, I might have been able to find a different, more positive kind of outlook. And I'm being a little more like, it was my perception at the time. I don't think it wasn't reality. I was involved in theater. I was involved in speech. I got kicked out of them because I was like, breaking the rules. But so I started to get this aspiration. So to answer your question, I had some humility, and then I started to get aspiration. And I now think we have this kind of crisis with young men in America who are kind of losing their way. They're not going to college as much. They're not finding trades. They're not finding jobs. I think the thing that really helped me was finding a crazy aspirational dream, like landing a job at Nike. And so my encouragement to young men is basically like, find a goal that is extremely aspirational and hopefully attainable. And that's a very subjective term, attainable. Like, anyone could have looked at my experience and told me like, you're not going to get a job in brand marketing at Nike. But I was just like crazy. So a lot of times when people ask me how I got, I think I was actually just crazy enough to think that I could. And so I think that was the mindset shift, a little bit of humility and then a bunch of aspiration. And then of course, a lot of hustle and energy behind it to try to like chase something.
Yeah. I've seen that personally, as a few months ago I got real intentional about who I was spending my time around and what my goal was. And so I don't have my goal perfectly set, but I have this general area. I have people that I want to emulate, and I have a place that I want to get to in business. And so since I have narrowed that down and been able to focus, I've been able to take all of these different things and be intentional of, is it getting me towards my goal, as opposed to just going arbitrarily. And the things that I've achieved in the last 5 to 6 months, as opposed to, and I've been in the Apogee program for 2 years now. So it was a mindset shift outside of that. That certainly helped. That gave me the tools to make the mindset shift. But when I finally really took a look and made that mindset shift, everything has started to snowball. And each week, my goal basically is each week get more and more intentional about what I'm doing. So this week I started fully scheduling out every single day. I'll have a couple hours in the evening that aren't scheduled, but those hours are still whatever thing that you were working on during the day got you the most inspired. Let's work on that the last couple hours of your day. And so as I've gotten more intentional, like yesterday was by far the most efficient day I've had in months. And so the intentionality and the targeting of where I want to go has been so huge in my journey, and I can't imagine how huge it was for you as someone who was in a really bad spot, and how much hustle but also the amount of hustle that it takes even for me to be able to do this. But for someone who was incarcerated at the age of 21, being able to get there must have taken an insane amount of hustle.
Yeah, it does. And I think that I think about this a lot, especially now that I have kids, but I'm also a contrarian. So I think that a lot of times the things that we believe are like our deficiencies can be our gifts if we use them in the right place, or at least if we're like aware of them, then we can start to become. And so I don't like to be told no. And so, okay, that can be a bad thing, right? That can be like, oh, okay, I'm going to fight back against my teachers or against my parents or against, authority figures. But it also can be used to channel, like, if people, like, I hate it. Just a friend of mine who runs an agency has this quote behind him that says, like, there's always a way, and that's what I really believe. Like, these things can be done, and I actually think that I found a company like Nike who, most of the time, like, Nike has this crazy, like, we'll figure it out. We can do this. We've done crazier things in less time. I'll never forget, I was in a brainstorm session one time. We were working on the NFL project on, like, how we could launch this jersey. And I can't remember. You do brainstorm sessions, and the point of them is, like, don't turn any idea down. Just, like, try to take it up, And I mentioned something about, like, I don't know, sending something to the space or, like, launching something in space. And they were like, oh, yeah, we actually did that like 6 years ago. But yeah, it was fun. And yeah. And so, like, a place like Nike, space is not even out of the conversation. Like,
yeah.
So, like, and timelines are kind of a figment of the imagination. Like, I did this video yesterday on my social that was like pushing Kansas State basketball. They have this crazy confluence of, like, March Madness plus this pregame ritual that has really gone viral and has escaped out from under them. And so in an effort for me encouraging them to try to bring some of that energy back into their program, I'm like, you basically have 24 hours. So the national championship was last night. You're more of a football guy than a basketball, but the college national championship was last night. The Masters starts on Thursday. Really, it starts tomorrow. So to me, it was like, if you want to do anything with your college basketball program and capture people's attention, you have to do it by today, or the moment is gone and you miss it. And so could they put together this crazy video that I pitched them on? Yeah, they could. I've done crazier things in a shorter amount of time. It's just a matter of, like, if you're willing to put the time, energy, and effort towards it. So that's where that hustle. So, to kind of address what you said, like, hustle. Yeah, the way I describe it to people is that I'm not the most talented person at anything, but I can usually put you in touch with the person who is, because I'm a connector. And then, man, I'm not like, I didn't have a good GPA. I don't have, like, good grades, but I'm a mother-loving hustler. If there is nothing that I am, I'm a freaking hustler, and I'm going to make it happen. So that's what I am, and I love the whole concept of hustle and just translating it to life versus off the field, which is where you kind of learn it.
Yeah. I think it is interesting. I was looking at some of your social media content where you were talking about one of the teams that I think Nike had a thing with, and then they got eliminated by another team Nike works with, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And it's just like a crazy situation
Mm-hmm.
where, but it does. That's one of the things is I love doing marketing. I love media. I love all that stuff. That's what I'm into. And so when you are working for a company like that or working on a big project where things are unpredictable, it is kind of synonymous with business. Business is just constant problem solving. And
Yes.
so when you are betting on a team to go X far and not get beaten out by your other team, because then
Yeah.
you're creating a conflict of interest and you've already
Yeah.
done all this stuff. It's just like I know the headache when something doesn't go right, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine what it's like for a large scale company like Nike.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was doing a piece on Under Armour and what they did. They sponsored the women's tournament mostly, and they made a big bet on South Carolina as the number one team in
Yeah,
the
that's
nation,
what you're
and then
talking
they
about.
ran up against their founder came from University of Maryland, and that's kind of their flagship program, and they ran up against them in the tournament, I think in the Sweet 16. And so I guarantee you those marketing executives were sweating bullets because I've been in that scenario. You know, you spend all this time planning this great scenario, and then you're like, oh crap, we didn't think about that. Um, and like you said, that's business. And I messaged you 30 minutes ago and was like, hey, I had a meeting pushed up. Could we shift a little bit? And you're responsive and are like, yeah, let's start 10 minutes early and we can make up for that. And that's just life, man. It's never going to go
Yeah,
according to plan. And then we just have to kind of adjust and figure it out.
yeah, and adjusting, figuring out. But I think also part of that is you can't prepare for the unpredictable, for something unpredictable to happen. Well, no, you can't prepare for the unpredictable thing, but you can prepare for something unpredictable to happen because there is usually a guarantee it will. And
Yes.
so, like for me, I was already ready for the podcast when you messaged
Mm-hmm.
me, but I had to print out and read over your intro so that I had it down. And so I was like, hey,
Yeah,
give me like 5 minutes to do that, and then I'm ready to go.
totally.
And so the fact of the matter is, the fact that I got started getting ready for the podcast a half hour early resulted in me being able to shift. And I've seen that for me when I have some episodes I've been rushed where I haven't given myself adequate time, and now I'm like, no, I was like, I think I need 30 minutes to get this done. I gave myself 45 because I
Yeah.
know that those there's usually 15 minutes there where I got to figure something out or do something. And so, or my dad asks me to like wash the dishes or something. And so
Yeah,
you got to plan for something unpredictable to happen because it always will.
totally. Those who fail to plan to fail. Isn't that what they say? Um, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I'm curious so you were at Nike for years, and you left last year, and so
Yep.
what's that transition been like, and what is Perseus Creative, or that right, that's what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah. You did it. You nailed it. It's hard for people. Perseus Creative is a bit more of a. It was the long term vision that's starting to crystallize probably sooner than maybe I imagined. But I basically just didn't want to. When I left, okay, so I spent 10 years in brand marketing at Nike. I spent about 4.5 years chasing that job at Nike. So it was about 15 years focused on Nike. And I always felt like I was entrepreneurial. I often people would ask me how I had success at Nike, and I would tell them, well, it's ironic because it's such a big global corporation, but I'm entrepreneurial, and that's how I'm able to kind of weave my way through Nike pretty well so far. For a corporation, they are very welcoming of the entrepreneurial spirit. I think it comes from like Phil Knight and the whole shoe dog mentality and the founding of the company. Um, it's a great book, by the way, Shoe Dog. But I So anyway, I just had to kind of I had to call my own bluff. I kept saying that I was entrepreneurial. I had visions for what I wanted to do. I think 2020, all of us stopped and at least asked what is important to us. And for me, that was living close to family and friends here in Dallas, Texas. And it gave me an opportunity to set out on my own and try my own hand at some of the skills and passions that I enjoy doing. Which leads me to Perseus Creative. I didn't want to name it Jordan Rogers Enterprises. Felt like that was a bit narcissistic. Or, I don't know. Like, it's boring. I don't know. Like, I don't want to build a whole empire on my name. And so what I realized, though, I've literally got off the phone with my guy who's doing my website. I'm relaunching my website like probably next week or maybe by Friday. And it's going to be back to like jordanrogers.xyz. And what I found is people are hiring me in the early stages of business. They're not hiring some entity. So the future vision of Perseus Creative is likely some athlete representation, helping athletes and or brands tell their stories in beautiful, creative ways. I had a great example of that on Thursday, helped an athlete do his college announcement, but sort of told his story. He's a two-sport athlete, and he has always, his whole life, people have asked him to pick and like focus on one, and he's just loved playing, and his parents have encouraged him to play. And that really spoke to me because as I told you in my intro, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I liked playing all sports, and I felt like I kind of lost my way when I tried to pick, and I picked wrong. And so I love this, and I got to help set a creative vision, got to help intake his words and spit back out like a script for that, find the people to help create this vision, compile that, set the tone, the music, and then orchestrate a partnership with a company like Uninterrupted, who is a media company who basically helps athletes get their story out. And so that's kind of what I love doing most. I love combining the creative, like beautiful film, music, texture, imagery, photography, video, stories, and athletes, and using that stuff to help tell that. And of course, I love sports. And then I love media, as we've talked about. I have my own social media. I've seen the power of when I can share my story in a way that I want to, how people respond to it. And so I care a lot about helping other people do that, whether it's a brand or an athlete. So that's the vision of Perseus Creative. So we'll be kind of a creative agency representing athletes and or brands to help tell beautiful stories.
That's awesome. I think it's very exciting to see that, and I like the vision there where it's just helping the athlete create what they want to create. And I definitely think that when the vision is starting out, it is always an interesting balance between, do I want to look like a corporate sort of company that feels all official, and you have to balance that with the personal side of things.
Yeah.
And that's also how it goes to some degree with social media, where and I have to balance between the podcast and me myself, which can be a little difficult, and inherently the social media game is a difficult game to play. It is a hyper complex, and especially when I'm uploading to both YouTube and Instagram. And the last week I've been focused on, like, the clips I've been putting out have been YouTube optimized as opposed to Instagram optimized, and so they're not performing that well on Instagram, but they're getting like 1,000 views a video on YouTube, and
Nice.
and that channel has 70 subscribers, and so that's growing so much where I'm like, you have to balance. And so my thing with Instagram is, in order to grow, you kind of just have to use audios, and so and because for me, the clips I put out that don't have an audio behind them, like the same amount less views than I have followers, and so
totally
it's interesting.
Oh yeah, interesting is a nice word for it. It's
infuriating.
It's infuriating. It's thrilling. It's exhilarating. It's a puzzle. It's maddening. It's all kinds of things. I kind of, to go back to that competitive spirit, I kind of treat it as a game. I'm constantly studying it. What do they want? What are they optimizing for? I mean, I built my Instagram following on photography of like cars, buildings, like cityscape photography, and like sneakers. And that is a far cry from where I am today and what I'm doing and creating. And so I really I move through the stages of grief in, you know, it annoys me. I refuse to accept it. And then I basically go through, acceptance, and then I get back on board. And then I take it as a challenge. I take it as a creative challenge. So I think that constraint leads to creativity a lot of times. And so, but I think you've called out to something and you've made a choice. You've said, I'm going to optimize for YouTube. So you can't be frustrated then when it doesn't go on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's great. You're getting success on YouTube. I love that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
What I was going to say is, so optimizing for YouTube. The interesting thing about YouTube is YouTube's criteria for you to start getting views is a lot less complex. When it comes to short form content, all YouTube wants is consistency. I've been uploading every day for like 10 days straight now, and now every video gets at least 1,000 views. And so uploading, that's all they want. But Instagram, they're like, you've got to have audios, you've got to have the right X, Y, and Z. But the issue for me is like, when I put out my podcast clips, I find a free, piece of stock music that fits the clip. But I don't necessarily have the capacity to scroll for hours and save different audios and then use them. So Instagram is there's different levels of complexity, but each platform has its issues. My main thing is that either way, it's really hard to convert short form views into long form views. On YouTube, I'll post every clip I post. I'll always make sure to post it to my story with a link. I don't like the fact that you can't put links in Reels. You should be able to do that. But I will always link it, and then the views aren't that crazy. And then on YouTube, someone sees your short, and in the comments I'll have a link to it.
Yeah.
But no one cares because it's a scroll. Most people don't even watch the whole thing. They're just here it is, the first 3 seconds, and next,
Totally. Yeah. Well, it frustrates me, don't get me wrong. And then again, you have to take it as a creative challenge. How do you get people engaged? So take Instagram as a business model. If you're a business, you're not letting somebody put a link in something. That's taking people off your platform. So it's almost like if you owned a retail store and you set up an exit, if someone wanted to sell their product in your door, but said, hey, I want to drill a hole, I want to drill a door in the side of your building, and I want to take people out of your store and take them out to my lemonade stand. And it's like, well, no, hold on. Like, I'm cool with people tasting your lemonade in my store and buying it from me if I get a percentage. But if I'm going to kick you out to go get your lemonade outside of my store, then I'm losing sales here. And so that's the constant game. TikTok has gotten in on this. I have like a predetermined predictive text where the number one question I get from everyone is, how'd you get a job at Nike? How'd you get a job at Nike? And so I have a PDF that people can download on my website that has my whole story. It has a link to my LinkedIn. It has links to podcasts I've been on. And so when I say, go check the link in my bio, blah, 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 TikTok has now added an additional step where they put that in like comment purgatory. And you have to go in and select it to approve that comment to go out, because their algorithm has figured out that there's something in there that's sending people off the platform. And then Instagram is the same way. I was trying to promote some YouTube stuff that I was in, and they just absolutely destroy your views on stories. So there's clever hacks. You can do engagement hacks. You'll see me post polls occasionally. I don't like being dishonest or disingenuous with people. So a lot of times I'll post a picture of me and I'll say, will you push one of these buttons to help increase my engagement? Because I want to tell you something important on the following slide. And you would be amazed at how many people will select one of those just to like help you out. Versus if you go, hey guys, what do you like? Like, do you want cold coffee or hot coffee? And it's like, you're being disingenuous here. Like, you're just doing this so that you can get engagement. Just say that you want engagement. And anyway, I always find honesty the best policy.
Yeah, I like looking at it as that game, and I need to add that into my schedule for this week, is to do some research into what performs well on Instagram. Because, but the thing I struggle with most is for doing my podcast, the podcast clips are easy. I spend 15 minutes each morning picking a segment from my most recent podcast, and I put that out. And so the interesting thing is I usually put it out at like exactly, so this is one thing I found on YouTube. I get the most views if I put it out between 2 and 5 p.m. I have to put it out between 2 and 5. If I post it in the morning, it gets none. If I post it past like 8, it gets none. But the best is between 2 and 5. But on Instagram, no matter what, I get like 200 views. And it would be nice if I could, because trying to get growth from 200 views, which is 40 more than my follower count, is not it's not that great for growth. And so I need to figure out my system for utilizing real audios and optimizing my content for Instagram.
Well, there's ways. I mean, I actually believe that marketing is basically trying to get people's attention, and it's usually through stories. And so, I'll kind of leave you with this, as we'll have to wrap in a couple, but, look, you have to hook people's attention. So it's just like English 101. They teach you how do you grip the reader in the first line. You got to do that, And so I think the mistake a lot of podcast people, I've been on podcasts a lot of times and they send me the video clip and it's freaking awful. Like, so I will say, hey, send me your thing ahead of time. I will review it and decide. And usually what it needs to be is like an intro from me, rather than a lot of times people play their like generic music. Today on the podcast we have so and so. That's not the stuff that you need to like drop in. Like, so if it was a clip with me, you would say something like, you would immediately go to me saying something like, well, I was in a jail cell and doing this thing, blah blah blah, or like I was shooting heroin and blah blah. And it's like, whoa, wait, what is that? I want to hear more about that. So for you, it's almost like dropping in the middle of a clip of something that's interesting for someone, and then you can circle back and go, this guest was amazing, blah 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 blah, or check us out here.
Yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to actually say, because of the trending audio, you can hack that. You can do a trending audio and you can just drop the volume to 0 if you want to use that stock footage. Or you do 2 exports, one for YouTube if you need to have that stock footage, one for Instagram, and then just get a little trending audio and just put it at 3% under the thing, and it can just, so they're all different. And anyway, I don't have time to go into all that, but there's all kinds of ways to figure out the system.
There are all the content hacks and all of the things you can do. And for me, I take a look at my content as a whole, and I love getting that engagement in there in the beginning. But right now though, it's like, if I can spend 15 minutes for 1,000 views as opposed to a half hour and get, maybe I get 100 more views on Instagram, and for that little bit of optimization. And so right now, with my focus being where it is, that time is not worth it. The ROI isn't there. But I want to try to put out, I think next week I'm going to take some clips from this and, try to use some engagement hacks for Instagram, just in the clip itself, not on stories or anything like that, but just try to get people engaged on Instagram, use some trending audios, and so I can see if that has the desired effect.
Yeah. That's it. It's all trial and error, man. I joined TikTok 6 months ago and have built that pretty quick, and it all came down into like when I was finally willing to like edit something in the app and do everything native and just figure out the program and struggle through it and suck for a while. That was basically the willingness, is like, are you willing to suck for a while to learn it? Yeah.
My main issue, I forget to upload to TikTok because I have this unnecessary dislike of the platform. I have no reason for it. I don't use the app. I use Instagram and YouTube. So posting there is a no-brainer. If I'm on the app, it helps me remember. But I never use TikTok. It doesn't appeal to me because I don't want to spend a ton of time getting the algorithm right for me when I have algorithm optimized content on YouTube Shorts. And so it's not worth it for me personally. So it makes it hard for me to actually upload. But I have seen my views. I used to get 6 views in a TikTok. Now I get like 50. So I'm going somewhere. But I think the interesting thing is they want to keep you on their app. So I should start doing some content natively. And so I need to start like posting some stuff that's just me talking. But that's another thing I struggle with is figuring out that other content. But that's a whole different. It's such a broad area where you really have to dial in your vision for that platform by platform. Yeah. But yeah.
Look, I mean, here's my parting words of wisdom to you because I'm gonna have to go on another call. But the reason I took your call, I'm always looking at so I get reached out to by all kinds of people. And, I teach personal branding, which is all about how do you stand out? How are you distinct from the rest? Parker, you are very distinct from many other 16-year-olds. I'll tell you that. So the niche that I would be going down on TikTok is I'm a 16-year-old podcast host who's had world-renowned speakers on my podcast from X, Y, or Z. Lean into the things that make you different from every other 16-year-old. I don't know, homeschooling. Like Matt has all this stuff. Does that make you weird? Well, are there weird kids at public school? Yeah. So I don't know, lean into homeschool and what it's done for you. All kinds of stuff. But you have a distinct angle and you just lean into that, brother. Keep chasing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to lean into that. All right. Thank you so much for coming on here, man.
Parker, keep up the good work, brother. If I can help you in any way, you let me know. I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you guys at home for watching. I've been talking to Jordan Rogers, and this has been The Conversation Station.